Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wonderslut. This is Rebecca Crosby. I am here today with Brandon. I'm so happy to see
Hi,
your face.
Rebecca.
He is
Yeah, it's
very
great to
far
speak to you
away.
again.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about you. I know basically nothing. I like to go into these conversations with just an organic. Tell me about you.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So, as you said, my name's Brandon, and I moved to a small island called Tenerife when I was 15 years old. So, for those that don't know, Tenerife is a really small island owned by Spain, and it's about 100 miles off the coast of Morocco, Africa, on the Atlantic. So,
Okay.
it's a
So
lot of
you
people
grew
don't,
up there. I thought you
more or
like
less.
located there. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I've been here 20 years, so yeah, I've
Okay.
sort of pretty much grown up. My whole adult life's been here, and in the past sort of 5 years, I've really turned towards things to do with wellness and mental health and things like that, relationships. And I'm one of the founders. There's me and my one of my best friends, Alistair. We founded Clear Minds, and it's basically a mental health app, and we do hypnotherapy, guided meditation, breath work, and things like this. And we've been working on that now for 5 years. So we're growing that, and it obviously working in that industry with a lot of different therapists and different things, obviously enlightened me to things that I've gone on in the past, and I basically started sharing some of the information that I'd been through in the past, and obviously that I've come to learn about myself. And it just so happens there's a lot of other people in the world that have been through that as well. And I decided, basically it was no, sort of October, November, both me and my business partner, both of us, we decided we were going to embark on this online journey where we show our faces within the company rather than just run the company, Clear Minds. And we basically both made an Instagram. Mine's Brandon Clear Minds, his is Alistair Clear Minds. He's been through a lot of things related to addiction and things related to his diagnosis of ADHD. And obviously, I've shared things about obviously trauma bonds and past abusive relationships and things like that. And we both pretty much blew up online, with a lot of help of obviously friends and my wife. Obviously, she's a key part of my account. She's helped me grow it, and I've gone from having no followers and not really a clue about things online to having, I think, about 460,000 on Instagram today.
Yeah, that's huge. I found you because you posted a video about I think it was the one that if you're a man, if you're an older man and you're dating a younger woman, this is what this says about you. So I thought that was hilarious. And then I started watching some other videos. I was like, okay, I
Yeah.
like this dude. He knows something. So tell me how you got into that. Like,
Yeah, okay. So there's a few different things. Some of it I share publicly, some of it's sort of a bit more personal that I don't really share. I mean, I think I've shared some of it with you before we recorded and stuff and things. But so a lot of it's from like a past relationship I had when I was younger individual, and I was in that relationship for quite a few years. And basically, at the time, I didn't know what was going on, and I left the relationship feeling very hurt, not knowing, not having a lot of confidence in myself, a very sort of broken person, thinking that I wasn't good enough. And it wasn't until obviously I then met my wife and we clicked and we've been together for 15 years. But it was something that at the time I went through for quite a long time, and I didn't understand it up until maybe 5 6 years ago. And obviously when I did, it really enlightened me. I started to understand things about myself and myself from the past and things. I started to obviously feel better about certain things. It helped enlighten how I felt. I had a different perspective on what happened, and obviously I've been sort of looking into that a lot more since. And it wasn't, and then obviously I started sharing it online in November, and it seems to have clicked with a lot of people. So that's pretty much mainly what I went through, and what brought me to where I am now.
so have you always been like this kind of soul seeker? Like you dig into people's personalities and how they operate?
I don't know. I'd love to say I am because that sounds really cool. I, but I think it's
You
been
are really
more.
cool.
thank, thank you. I think it's been more like the past sort of 5 years where I've sort of understood myself. I think before that, so I used to be heavily, really involved in like photography and things. That's a lot of my background, and I used to love
Okay.
photography.
Yes.
Um, and I was always behind a camera. I was always quite
You told me
creative.
about this
And
transition.
yeah,
Yes.
I've told you about that. And
Mhm.
so I think there's a lot of things that always been interested in. I've always believed heavily in like manifestation. I have, well, he's not really a close friend anymore, but he was a close friend. He moved away, so we were in touch a little bit. I've always been interested in like things. He's always been heavily interested in astrology, and things. So that sometimes, I've always had a lot of interest in things that maybe aren't physical or proven, um,
Okay.
and sort of belief in that side of things. But I'd say I haven't sort of got involved with either doing something actively to help other people and enlighten other people, until maybe the past sort of 5 years. And then I've really sort of stepped into it more since I put myself online.
Right. And it was like COVID that kind of pushed you out of your one area of work into another,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was COVID. So before that, obviously, like I said, I was doing a lot of photography, a lot of videography, and I enjoyed it. It was creative. But obviously, when COVID happened, obviously people didn't get together anymore, so there was no one taking photos, no one making videos and things. So I had a lot of time to myself. Well, not to myself, in the house with my family, but at the same time, work stopped, and it was a stressful time. That's where I actually found hypnotherapy, and it was an off chance thing that happened. Where it was Alistair who was telling me about hypnotherapy. He's been through stuff to do with his past, and he sent me a link of some random guy that basically had a hypnotherapy all about stress, and I didn't believe in it at all. I was like, okay, this is going to be a waste of time. I went up to my bedroom. Yeah, yeah. I went up to my bedroom. I remember it really clearly. I laid on the bed. I put it on. I told my wife what I'm doing and stuff, and she's more open to all that sort of things. So she thought, okay, cool. And within maybe 5 or 6 minutes, I was asleep. Um, and the guy said to wait, like open your eyes at the end, and I opened my eyes and I just lied there feeling so calm, so like my body felt heavy. I was just lying in bed like feeling really relaxed, really good. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And since then, I'm obviously one of the sort of people that's susceptible. It's about 90% of people are sort of that give themselves to it are susceptible to hypnotherapy,
You said
and
90%?
roughly 90%. I mean, I wouldn't exactly quote that, but on a lot of studies that are not done by us, that are done by all sorts of various different places, it's roughly that. I mean, one of the key things with hypnotherapy is you've got to like commit to it. So even now, I use hypnotherapy nearly every day, like pre-recorded hypnotherapy sessions done by our therapists, and I put them on to go to sleep to, and they're like sleep sessions that we make, and they work great. But if I was to have something on my mind and I was absolutely like adamant that no, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm going to sort of focus on something, and I sort of, or I was to fight it and stuff, it wouldn't work. You have to be, you have to sort of make yourself open to it happening, and if you just relax into it, it works really well.
Okay. So you said 10% of the population is not susceptible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's probably about 10% around that, and obviously
I want
from
to
those
make sure I
people,
got those
yeah, yeah,
numbers right.
and the only sort
Fascinating.
of one, yeah, one, and to be fair, I don't even know why. I haven't looked into it because again, I haven't really looked into it. But also, people that have epilepsy are not meant to use it, which is an interesting thing. I've not actually looked further into it. It's a
Huh.
thing that if people have epilepsy, they're not to do it. But
Okay. They're
yeah,
also not
interesting.
supposed to smoke weed, I heard.
Hmm.
People who are
That
epileptic.
as well. Yeah, yeah,
That's
interesting.
fascinating. So I find that with a lot of men who have like shifted into like this spiritual world
Yeah,
with which is just our bodies really. It's not spirituality, it's science in my opinion.
yeah,
That men have to have some sort of physical awakening. Like they're in the hospital because they're having panic attacks or they're having a faux heart attack, which I guess is the same thing. And
yeah,
they have to come into like the realization that meditation heals their body of all of these
yeah.
stress symptoms. So, do you think that's fair for you also? You experience that
Yeah,
hypnotherapy session?
yeah, I think it would be with that. I mean, I turned to it. I guess it was a very highly stressful time. I wasn't obviously I wasn't, I'd say, too stressed. I'll give you a bit of background as well, because it wasn't that. losing the business of photography and videography and my work, that wasn't really the key factor of stress for me. That was one major factor. But at the time, when COVID first hit, obviously, I think we all have a bit of a different sort of like image of what COVID is now and things. We don't really need to get into that. But my daughter, she's nearly 13 and she's got Down syndrome and she's got really low hemoglobin A and she's got like basically a low immune system. So before COVID, we spent a lot of time in hospital with her, like in the intensive care unit with her fully in an induced coma and things like this with pneumonia that came from just the common cold. So she was very, very susceptible to virus. Anyone had a cold in her class, she'd get it, and then we'd have to like take her out of school and just, act as if she had a serious illness just to get her well again. This is when she was obviously little. This is obviously going back like 6 years, 7 years. So when COVID hit, and obviously the news blew up, and there's this deadly virus and things like that, it was obviously it triggered a lot of PTSD in me and my wife because we were terrified of COVID because we thought this virus is going to kill our daughter if it gets to us. So like I was one of the crazy. I mean, I wasn't crazy at all. It was what I knew at the time, but I was the one. Like I'd go to the supermarket, I'd go there, I'd have mask and everything on. I'd get back into my garage with the shopping. I'd clean all the shopping. Then I'd like go upstairs, I'd take all my clothes, leave them in the garage, get totally clean and be like, just to stop this virus potentially getting into our house and harming our daughter. She's had COVID since. She was fine, which was obviously, it was a bit scary when she had it because we thought, oh no, is it going to react badly? And she was fine. And I think obviously a lot of the world sort of has a different sort of view on COVID now. But that was one of the things that was the high stress thing for me. It was, work was a little bit of a stress, but work's just work. But it was my daughter's health that was really something that I was scared of. We were really, really nervous about that. Not just like her getting it, but also what do we do if we get ill? Like, what are the hospitals like, and what situations going on there? Because the news was obviously so terrifying at that point. So I think I would say that at the time it was a changing point in my life, and obviously it has changed my life. Because had I have not done that hypnotherapy session, I might not have believed in it, and I might not have pursued what I have done now. And we've built the app, we've done all these things, we've developed it, we've got quite a big team of people now, and we've helped over 1 million people worldwide. So I think my friend, obviously he liked hypnotherapy, but we came together, and I don't think had that have happened, I don't think we'd be where we are today with Clear Minds.
Yeah. I love that so much. So you were just under an incredible amount of stress and you sought something outside of yourself to assuage, is that the word I'm thinking? To just calm your nervous system,
Yeah,
essentially.
there was not much that, because I used to do sports and things, or like getting to think, you couldn't really do that. I also didn't want to do that. I didn't want to risk going outside to certain situations, that could obviously bring this in. So it was a very nervous time. And at that point, it was like, okay, I'm feeling so stressed. I'll just, I don't want to drink or do something that I know is going to just make it even worse. So I thought, yeah, I'll try. I mean, my friend as well, we're not like, as much as we have a great connection, it's a very, thinking back to the sort of relationship we had then when we weren't involved in this, it's a bit of a random thing for him to send, and it's like, look, this might really help, which sort of shows, because, what I was going through at the time, for him to think about something and then send it.
Right.
I think had COVID not happened and I hadn't been in that situation, we probably wouldn't have even had that conversation. I wouldn't have tried hypnotherapy probably.
Yeah. I interview so many people that have said COVID totally shifted their thinking. It was like a total awakening for them. Like
Yeah.
they were living in fear forever.
Yeah.
And then something
Yeah.
switched in them and they're like, I think that we are just souls
Yeah.
in this weird matrix thing happening around us.
Yeah.
It's
I think,
fascinating. So, did you say Clear Minds is an app?
yeah. So we've got the website, which is clearminds.com, and people can get stuff from there. But we
Okay.
also have the app, which basically, it's a bit like sort of Blockbuster, Netflix sort of situation. We started the website first. You can buy individual sessions like you could from like Amazon or something. You can buy the sessions there individually. But the
Okay.
app has everything on it. So it's a bit like the Netflix of that, where you can just subscribe and you've got access to like
Like a
300
membership.
sessions. Yeah.
Okay. That's great to know
Um,
because I use those all the time.
yeah. I mean, I think we spoke before, and obviously I'll get you signed up and you can give
Yeah.
it a go and things.
Okay. I like that. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
okay, tell me about the video that you made about older men and younger women,
Yeah.
and tell
Okay.
me
Well,
the fallout of that because I know that like went viral.
yeah, it went really popular. So I think it was a bit of an opinion of mine. Obviously, I'm a girl dad. So obviously, my daughter, she's 13. And I think I start to, and I speak to, like you, I speak to hundreds of people all the time. And a lot of those people find themselves in situations whereby, they've been in a marriage for many years, 30, 40 years, and then you'll get a guy leave them for like 21 or 22-year-old or an 18-year or 19-year-old coming out of college. And I think I just thought about it, and I thought, obviously, it's so. I mean, it was running through my mind. I was thinking how I could put it together as content, and obviously, you're a content creator. You've got to find the sort of hook that's going to get people interested in the first place to be able to then absorb the content that you want to teach them, like the educational side.
Right.
And I thought, okay, so let's not say like 22-year-old, let's say 18. Let's make it a little bit more spicy. Um, and and I put it out there knowing that it was going to get a lot of attention. It did, and I think my thought pattern behind it was this sort of realization of like, I think people, and obviously people are, they can do whatever they want to do. You get one life, but I think people in relationships, it's interesting how people often, it's mainly men, don't age with the relationship. So they find, obviously, much younger girls attractive. And I think it's this thing of like try to find people that not just find people their own age attractive, but their own maturity levels, rather than being so obsessed with just maybe like the youthful appearance of someone and being almost shallow to that, to throw away a good woman that stood by you, um, you know, to go for just a young person based on maybe stereotypes or thinking, okay, they're attractive, but what are you really going to have in common? And that's not to say that people should stay together. And if you're in an unhappy relationship, you should stay together, because that's also not true. But should you run away and get a really young girl? Maybe not. I mean, obviously, it's up to you. That's obviously up to whoever it is, and people will do what they want to do, and that's up to them. But I think it's just a thing of maturity to sort of like, if you are going to break up with someone, you need to be moving to something that's obviously better for you as a person. That can be male or female, rather than just sort of being shallow to go for how someone looks, because it's not going to end well for you, I don't think. And again, I'm still sort of like trying to pitch together like how I sort of thought about it, because it's an interesting bit of content that I'm going to follow up with different like variations of, because I've got so many things running through my mind and things like that, and sort of how, what I think would be sort of more acceptable. Because one of the things that when I've spoke to these people as well, and again, it's mainly obviously women that I've spoke to, and they feel really hurt by it, and their self-esteem takes such a knock, and obviously it takes a little while to build back and sort of to heal from that, because they're basing all of their own self-worth on the image of this other person rather than everything that they bring to the table. And I think, and that's always quite sad to hear, because it's not all just about looks.
Yeah. Well, I have so many thoughts. Number one, the men that leave, they're perfectly wonderful women for young women, just haven't evolved, right? So they stayed
Yeah,
stuck in this emotional level of maturity, and their
yeah,
wives continue to grow as people.
yeah,
Happens a lot. I see that in a lot of men. They're like emotionally like not on our level
yeah,
for whatever reason, because I think the patriarchy has caused this phenomenon. Because I was telling somebody the other day, it feels like it's just enough for you to be a dude. Like you just get to show up, and that's your gift to the world is I exist. Like I don't have to do anything more than that.
yeah,
And women, because we have been the, oppressed group largely, we've had to hone our skills in other ways because we're like trying to navigate this fucked up hierarchical system of men are better than women, right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, whether that's true or not, it's like an illusion. I just feel like they're victims also of this whole thing, right?
Yeah, and I mean, often you'll find that they're searching for something that they're missing. Like, in as much as it can be either it be something like egotistical, or it can be something related to something they went through, obviously in earlier life. And like you said, as the woman sort of matured into a different stage, often it's turned into like motherhood and stuff like that, and they've matured into a different part and stage of their life, the man just hasn't gone through that, and they've not sort of like worked through that. Obviously, a lot do, and that's great. But
So, is it
obviously,
a lack of adventure? Someone said that to me recently. I think
a
men are
lack.
just bored.
I mean, obviously, is the idea of someone looking for, and I guess obviously someone looking for a new partner through not being with the same one. But I think obviously maybe it is. Yeah, it could be. I guess also you could look at it as the fact that they've not nurtured their own relationship. If they've got bored in a relationship, then
Yeah.
if their idea of a relationship is to go home, crack open 6 beers and sit in front of the TV, they're going to be bored. If they want
So
to go
true.
out and do stuff, they
Everybody's bored. Okay.
yeah, exactly.
It's so true.
So,
Yeah, I find I'm currently dating this man, and we just sit outside under the stars and build a fire every night
yeah,
and just like talk till we're done. And
yeah, healthy.
that's lovely. We're not being
Yeah,
entertained, we're entertaining each other and sitting under the stars.
yeah, it's good. It's good, and
Yes.
I think we're opening up to potentially a future of a lot of problems. Obviously, with the way phones are stuck in our hands these days, like an anti-boredom device. There's we never really get to engage like our brains that much because we're always distracted. So I think like you said, sitting out in front of the stars, um, just talking. I think a lot of young couples, if they tried to do that, they'd be 10 minutes later. They might be on their phones, and it's a really hard habit to break.
I know. It really is. It can be
Yeah,
broken, but it
it
is
can be
very
broken. I mean,
yeah.
I'm just as bad.
Yeah.
Especially since I've started the Instagram account. You're like, oh, let me have a look. Let me see how that did and stuff like that. And it's dangerous.
Yeah. That is something that is a very hard thing to hone, Like I
Yeah,
don't allow myself to spend much time on my phone, but it was tricky. I think you have to go through like it's not benefiting me. Like what I'm just consuming. What is
yeah,
happening around me? Am I living
yeah,
my life?
yeah,
Because that's
yeah.
not it.
No, no, that's just not it. And it's so easy to get locked into. I mean, it's literally built to drag you in. It's built to keep you on. So I think that's something that can be so dangerous.
It is. Um, so have you gotten a lot of feedback from men about that video? You said a lot of men were angry.
Yeah, I mean, I've got thick skin, so it doesn't bother me. I sort of expect it, and I just sort of laugh it off. Every now and again, if someone puts something too absurd, I'll just pin the comment so they're at the top, so then everyone else can see it. But yeah, a lot of men sort of got super angry about that, saying like it's just science. We're attracted to the youngest mate, and all sorts of different stuff, and all sorts of
Okay.
things, and yeah,
Okay.
all sorts of yeah,
I have heard that line so many times, and I'm like, it's called evolution, sir. Like,
yeah, it's
you are not an animal anymore. Like, you have
yeah,
evolved past, or you were
yeah.
meant to, at least. So, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, if someone's putting really hateful comments, I'll rarely reply. I'll just sort of leave it because I'm not going to get into like a tit to tat sort of thing and sort of make it about what they've said. So I'm not going to sort of like stoop to their level with that. I mean, it's amazing because you'd think these would be like accounts that have got like sort of no image or anything, but it'll be some guy that works in public services somewhere and he's got his family and his daughters and everything on there, and you think, are you really commenting that? Like you sort of think like that comment's there, people are going to see that, and it's crazy. But yeah, I usually don't engage with those. I mean, that's what they want, so I'm not going to really get involved unless I feel like I need to have an input.
Yeah. I think I used to, people told me all the time, don't read the comments. I'm like, why? I wouldn't be doing, I'm not doing this work to be liked, I'm doing this
Yeah,
because I feel like I have a fire in my belly and I need to talk.
yeah,
But I would just respond like, uh, "It's just not kind. We're here for kindness, not
yeah,
ugliness." Usually, if
yeah,
they
exactly.
commented like three times something ugly, I just blocked them from commenting.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's crazy to me that we just are so mean to each other. Like, do you get it? Every time you're mean
yeah,
to someone, you're being mean to yourself.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And also it's like people are so big online, they can be so mean online, and
Mm,
they just never be that person in person. They never would do that.
it's so true. It is so true.
Yeah, yeah,
And living in a tiny town, I don't know how big your town is, but how is
it's pretty
that
small.
showing up for you? Is it small?
Yeah, I mean it's small in Spanish.
People
So
know, do people know what you do? Like they,
I mean, like my neighbours and that do, because obviously, again, it's really small, and a lot of them in my village are related to each other in as much like there's like a few different families, and they've sort of always lived here, sort of thing. So they do, um, and I also have a Spanish account because I speak Spanish, not quite perfectly, but pretty good because I've been here so long. So I have a Spanish account. It's got about like 200 and something thousand followers. I pretty much just translate exactly what I do and put it on there. Um, and so I do get spotted out and about quite a lot. And people sort of saying they're sort of really thankful for obviously like
oh,
being
I
helped
love
and
that.
so yeah, so it's quite nice.
I love that.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
it's good.
think the world needs men like you that are showing up and speaking about, harmful topics like toxic relationships and, you know,
Yeah, thank you.
women that are hurt by men. It's just a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was just something that spoke to me at the time when I started to understand more, and it was a case of okay, what do I want to post online? When we decided we were going to make these profiles, and I was thinking about all sorts of different things that I could do, and I thought I don't want to just have an online presence for the sake of having an online presence. I don't want to, for example, just build something online and it not be meaningful or help people. And that's why I sort of thought, right, well, I'll just go fully in on that, and that's what I've done. Obviously, it's become. I think if no one had followed, I'd have still done it, but it wouldn't have been as fulfilling. Whereas now it's fulfilling when I get messages every day and comments and things thanking me for it, and it's now become something that I really sort of enjoy doing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I told you this, like when men have that own that space of mental health and are, it feels like you're in our corner and we haven't felt protected. Women in general haven't felt protected by men. I
Yeah,
mean, I hate to make that blanket statement, but I would say that most women have felt very exposed in their life, to I was having this conversation with my friend the other day. Like, my first reaction to a man is you are not trustworthy, and all of these things that you're going to tell me are actually not who you are, because they're
yeah,
in the business of protecting their ego and presenting a false narrative in order to get the thing, whatever the thing is.
yeah.
And that's so unfortunate for both men and women,
Yeah, it
fighting.
wastes a lot of time and
Yeah.
it like upset and different things. Yeah, it does. It really does. I think, and that's the thing. I think obviously one of the things that I do a lot of content on is obviously noticing red flags in when people are starting relationships as well, because like you said, people always bring their best self or a version of their self, whether it actually be authentic or not is another thing altogether. But they bring that person to new relationships, and I think a lot of people, I've got friends included, that end up in relationships and sometimes long term relationships that end badly because they didn't just understand these red flags that were there at the beginning. I think that that's important is to understand those and sort of see if you're both a fit for each other because that's important.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that there's not a space for abusive men in the world. I mean, they are human beings. I don't,
Yeah, of course.
uh, we're all just like in process trying to learn whatever lesson. And that's the hardest thing when you're a woman who is like independent. You get sideswiped by these men, and you're
Yeah, I
like,
mean,
not see that coming.
yeah, a lot of abusive men. Obviously, there's usually a sad story behind them. And again, that's not the bill that the woman has to pay. At the end of the day, they don't have to be part of that. But usually, there's a story behind them, whether it be, and it's usually related to their childhood. You know what their mother accepted, the way
Of
the mother
course.
treated them, and things like that. And that's usually why they are the way they are. So they can heal from it, and it will always help them in the future.
Right. I mean, I think also women have, because we play the victim so much. We've kind of created the monsters, you know?
It could be. It could
So
be.
it like goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I'm hearing myself back.
You have, let me see.
Sorry, it just happened. It started
Is that
happening.
better?
I think that's better now. Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, there we go. I'm
Okay, good.
talking because what was happening? I was talking. I could like hear myself back. It was
Okay.
like,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah. That's no, that's okay.
But I did this.
So yeah,
Do you know who Martha Beck is? She wrote that book, Finding Your Own North Star.
I haven't read it.
Okay.
No, but let me make a note of that.
She's,
You recommend it? I'm guessing you're going to say you
yeah,
recommend
she's
reading it.
incredible.
Yeah.
But she did a reel where she was talking about how the patriarchal structure exists because the people at the bottom are willing to support the ones at the top. When the people at the bottom stop supporting the ones at the top, it will collapse. So it is kind of like
Yeah.
our fault at the bottom that we're tolerating such poor behavior from men, you know?
Yeah, it makes. I guess. I guess. I mean, the thing is, yeah. I mean, it's not your fault. I think that's the
Right,
main thing. It's
right.
not your fault. I think you've just learned to accept it, and I think that's what happens with a lot of women. Is so, and obviously as well. I'm going to just put it out there that it also happens totally
No,
reverse. There
absolutely,
can be,
absolutely,
an abusive woman, and but let's for the sake of it,
absolutely.
and I'm guessing obviously your audience will always go on that sort of narrative of
It's not
woman,
gender specific.
and yeah, it's not, but obviously it's easier to stick to one. And I think, yeah, I think what will often happen is they'll meet a guy, comes from potentially an abusive childhood or an absent parent or different things. They have their own issues, whether it be abandonment issues or you know they're an avoidant or different things like that. And I think what happens is they'll bring themselves to a relationship with a woman that's in a perfectly healthy state. Let's just use that, and they'll be obviously maybe they'll be great at first and they'll be abusive over time. And what happens I find is that usually women slowly abandon their own boundaries a little bit, in order to sort of basically like that. And I think what happens is they'll bring themselves to a relationship with a woman that's in a perfectly healthy state. Let's just use that, and they'll be obviously maybe they'll be great at first and they'll be abusive over time. And what happens I find is that usually women slowly abandon their own boundaries a little bit, um, in order to sort of basically appease and keep the peace, and that's often comes from like different trauma bonds or different, they might have been in the beginning of the relationship, everything was perfect, like you said earlier, where they'll bring their best self at the start of a relationship, and they'll be swooned and they'll be treated really well and things like this. A lot of people call it like love bombing, where they're treated in such a way at the beginning of the relationship, and they're their everything and they do anything for them and they
Yeah.
take them on holiday, they do all different things, and then they slowly sort of withdraw all that care and attention and things like this, and the woman's left in the scenario of basically remembering the past and sort of they're remembering what they had, and they're almost starved through the relationship. And then when they're ready to leave, the man will sort of like, realize that he's about to lose them, and he'll start doing that again. And then she'll think, oh, that's wonderful, that's great, I'm getting this back again. So they're high on that situation. It usually always goes back to how it was, and I think that's where women, it's not their fault at
Yep.
all. I think
It's definitely programming. We're just doing what we
they've been
know
taught
to
that.
do.
They've been taught
I
to
was
abandon their own boundaries and
telling
accept
somebody the
less.
other day,
And
it
I think
was
that's where it is. And
so
again,
pivotal for me
women,
to
men,
be a
both
woman.
accepting
I'm
less.
48
For
years
me,
old, and
obviously,
I'm just
I was
now
accepting
doing
much
this in my
less,
life where I can
and I
tell
think
a
that
man,
that's
I am
something
not
that
feeling you
happens.
right
So I don't know
now.
if
You
it's
need
their
to put your
fault at
clothes
all.
on and
I think
leave,
it's just something that they've
or
learned.
whatever it
It's
is. I don't
almost like a
care in
coping
whatever
mechanism,
situation
like
we're in. Like,
trauma response.
I am owning that space. You do not have to get to be in my presence if I don't want you to be. And she
Yeah,
was like, oh my God, that feels so uncomfortable to me. I said, I know. It was really uncomfortable. I hated causing any kind of conflict or discomfort in another human being because as a woman, I was raised to believe you're supposed to take care of everybody around you
yeah,
at all costs. You sacrifice your own comfort over and over again. And finally, I'm like, no, I'm done. Bye.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So I tell myself before I go on a date, at any time, Rebecca, you can get out of this situation. Anytime. And hopefully there won't be like physical harm caused
Yeah.
to me,
And
because that's a fear also. I don't know how they're going to respond.
set your own
That'd be
boundaries.
terrifying.
And I bet it feels, I
But
bet you feel
I
way
think
more
every
empowered,
woman has felt that
way
way.
much, way happier in
It's
yourself, not
very
having to like people please or, yeah, 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 yeah,
I know. Everybody's just doing what they
yeah,
know
of
to
course.
do. Did you see that reel
Yeah,
about the man or bear?
yeah, yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
They interviewed all these
And I
women and
mean, when
asked them, would you rather
physical
meet a
fear comes
bear in the
into it, it's
woods
obviously
or
a
a
really scary
man?
place.
And
It's usually
95% of
obviously
the answers were bear.
the male will be stronger, and that could be a really scary place for people.
Isn't
And obviously,
that-
it's quite disgusting when that comes into it, like physical abuse.
Well, what else do we need to know about you? You're such a lovely human. I'm so glad you're doing the work you're doing in the world.
No, tell me about it. I don't think I did.
Okay.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm working on a lot of things at the moment. So I'm currently working on a book. I've not got a direct name on it, but it's going to be like a playbook on healing. So understanding yourself. So it's going to be. I've also always had, because I've always wanted to write a book. It's something I've always wanted to do. And one of the things I've wanted to do all the time is basically put little Easter eggs, that I call them, into the book. So they're little things that if you know, you know. So there's going to be like 13 sort of parts to it, because my daughter was born on the
Mhm.
13th. And obviously there's loads of little tweaks and little things that no one will realize.
I
But if
love
they
that.
follow me,
So
I'll
is
be
your
like
target
releasing little
audience
things and
men or
little
women,
different
or
stuff
have
like
you
that, I
thought
guess,
through that?
along the way. So that's something I'm working on at the moment. It's a work in progress, and I'm sort of, it's one of those things that I don't know when it'll be ready. It could be ready in 4 months. It could be ready in 2 years. I'm sort of, but when it's ready, it'll be perfect. That's the sort of thing, and I want it to be like really good. So that's something I'm working on at the moment.
Sure.
Um, if it came down to branding, I think it'll probably be branded towards women, because if I only
Yeah.
need to look at my Instagram to know that they're the ones consuming
This
that
man I
content.
told
When I come to
about
the
a
way I
self-help
write
book
it,
for men,
I
he
think
he
based
like
on my
laughed
own
and he was
personal
like, "Men
things
don't
and
read self-help
my
books."
thoughts, I want
I'm
to leave
like,
it very neutral
I
to
mean,
either.
that may be true, and also, I'm
Into
sorry,
any situation, so that
you're
anyone can
missing
pick it
out.
up and find it helpful. It might look like it's branded more towards women, just because they're the people that are viewing my content. 80-90% of them are women. So
Okay, I like that.
yeah, yeah. One of the things, I won't put you on the spot, but I'll mention it now. One of the things that I thought would be a cool idea, and you can either mention it like at the end of
Okay,
this podcast, or you can maybe
okay,
send me it
I
in
like
a,
it. I'm
a
gonna think
message
through that.
later. Is what I would quite like is for you to come up with an
Yeah,
idea for
because
one of
we
my
our
reels,
audience is
and I'll
kind of
make
the
content
same,
based on
like
that.
30s,
So that'd be quite
60s.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to go on the spot now. You can have a think throughout now, or you can just message me later, and then I'll make it, and we'll go with that. I think that'd be quite
Oh,
interesting.
yes, yes. That was why I got started on TikTok, because I was in an affair with a married man.
Yeah, so that'd be a
And,
good one.
oh man, it blew up. I
Yeah,
I I
very
was like,
similar
nobody talks
audience.
about it from the other woman
Yeah,
perspective,
and I saw some of your recent
and
stuff. I saw
it was
some of the shorts as well
uncomfortable.
about,
I
obviously
mean,
some
lots
of
of
your audience
hate.
is people that are like being
Lots of
in
hate,
affairs and
but
things at times, or like
also
things
lots
like
of
that.
women were like,
Yeah,
"Thank you for talking about this." Like, it was
yeah.
so
I bet they
uncomfortable, and
loved that on
even looking
TikTok.
back on it, I had this thought, I don't this may be too vulnerable to put out there, but I'm just gonna say it anyways, that I wonder if, like, after that shit happened to me, I used it to blow up on social media. Like, I think there was
I can
probably a part
imagine
of my ego that was
there was
like,
yeah, quite the
I think
assault.
this could be really big. Be the other woman, right?
Yeah.
But I think every content creator has that struggle. Like, am I feeding my ego or am I providing value to people who are healing? Right? It's like that pull all the time. But I finally bowed out of that. I was like, because I felt like it was so toxic to me to talk about it all the time. And I was being interviewed by this woman who was left, her husband left her for a younger woman and had an affair. So, and we had some really uncomfortable conversations, and people were saying awful things about me. And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't sit in this
Yeah.
anymore. Like, I gotta move on.
Yeah.
But I finally bowed out of that. I was like, I felt like it was so toxic to me to talk about it all the time. And right, right. Like, that's really uncomfortable. But at some
Uh,
point, you have to be like, that was my past. I'm not that girl anymore. I would never do that same thing, knowing what I know now. But
yeah, like like negative energy coming towards you. That's just you don't want that. Especially just you don't want to open your phone and see that.
yeah. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for this
Yeah.
conversation. This was so
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. Of course. Of course. And
Okay. Yes. I may have like
yeah,
a
I think
lot
being
of
authentic
ideas.
and
I'll
being
just
honest is
maybe
important as
I'll
well.
do a
So
reel and be
if that
like,
was your past and you
tell me
shared
what
it,
to ask
then
this man. Are you comfortable with
that's
that?
that.
And then I'll just send you along
Yeah.
people's suggestions. Okay. Okay. I like it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I think it's
Yes,
been
you too.
great.
And we can
And
find you on
I'll
Instagram.
um
Are
I'll
you on
watch out for your
TikTok too?
message regarding the reel and then I'll let you know when I post it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Don't go
Yeah, let's do
anywhere.
that. That sounds good. Okay. Well, it was